The daunting Castle of the Moors. This is an early medieval castle found in the spectacular Sintra Mountains in Portugal and was first built in the 700s and 800s, so over 1200 years ago. Built by the medieval Moors, this castle was essentially a border fortress on the frontier between the Islamic kingdoms to the south and the Christian kingdoms in the north. However, and as those who are familiar with Iberian history will know, it was more complicated than that, and the castle ended up sometimes being involved in fighting between rival Islamic forces and rival Christian forces. As far as I can tell, this castle witnessed at least two confrontations. The first, in 1031, when the stronger Almoravid dynasty took control of the castle from the weaker Taifa of Badajoz. And the second, 150 years later, in 1147, when the castle surrendered voluntarily to Christian Portuguese forces after the fall of Lisbon. The Siege of Lisbon in 1147, which I'll talk about later in this video, was undoubtedly the defining confrontation during the period of medieval Portugal, and during that siege, it became evident that there were also divisions within the Christian forces, for example, between the Anglo-Normans and the Flemish. The Castle of the Moors continued to have military importance for another 200 years, but began to slowly be abandoned in the 1400s, seeing as it was no longer a frontier fortress. The castle has two sets of walls which meander along the cliffs, with multiple towers that intersperse them. From the highest of the towers, which is known as the Royal Tower, you can see all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. With this commanding view, it becomes understandable why this location was chosen to construct a fortress. You may be able to see in the footage that different historic flags decorate the various towers today. I thought this was a nice homage to the history of the place. With the backdrop of the Sintra Mountains, the Atlantic Ocean, and the surrounding lush farmlands, the castle is today a scenic spot that allows the imagination to wander. We also know today that it's partly for this reason that the magnificent Penna Palace, which is the prior castle we saw, was eventually built next door, as you can see in this footage. Like other castles I've highlighted in my videos, after several centuries of decay, it was in the 1800s that the castle was essentially rediscovered and began to be restored. Despite the Castle of the Moors getting swamped with tourists, I would still recommend a visit. Just make sure to leave early in the day so that not even long lines can stop you from seeing this.